Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Putin says Russia wants lasting peace in Ukraine, appreciates Prime Minister Modi's concern over Ukraine crisis. Russia and Ukraine each exchanged 95 prisoners of war, swap brokered by United Arab Emirates. US President Joe Biden wraps up his Germany visit, says a ceasefire in Lebanon possible, ending Gaza conflict difficult. In sports, India stages strong comeback against New Zealand in Bengaluru Test. In hockey, India all set to take on Japan at Sultan Cup of Johor Cup in Malaysia. Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed gratitude to India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his concern over the Ukraine conflict and efforts towards paving a solution. Prime Minister Modi has underlined the importance of dialogue and diplomacy as well as sincere and practical engagement between all stakeholders to achieve an abiding and peaceful resolution of the conflict. Russia and Ukraine have been engaged in conflict since February 2022. President Putin said Russia is interested to conclude Ukraine crisis by peaceful means.
We are thinking about our own military, our own servicemen and our own equipment, and when we spare a thought for our people, we think about how to provide peace and peace by peaceful means inter alia. This is the difference. Our mediation is wanted. We will gladly work with the colleagues. Same refers to our friends. In particular, I mean the Prime Minister Modi. While talking with His Excellency over the phone, each time he raises this matter and expresses his considerations, and we are grateful to him for that.
In an interaction with senior journalists from BRICS countries, President Vladimir Putin echoed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's stance on BRICS, emphasizing that the grouping is not anti-Western, but rather non-Western ahead of the group's summit in October.
BRICS never was meant to against anyone. The Indian Prime Minister put it aptly of late. He has said that BRICS is not an anti-Western group. It's just a non-Western group. The BRICS does not counterpose itself to anyone. It is a group of nations that work in concert and have shared values and shared goals of development and take each other's interests.
Now, Russia is hosting the upcoming BRICS summit in Kazan from the 22nd till the 24th of October. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Russia to attend the 16th BRICS summit at the invitation of President Putin. Moving on, Russia and Ukraine carried out a new exchange of prisoners of war on Friday, each side bringing home 95 prisoners in an agreement in which the United Arab Emirates acted as a mediator. Russia's defense ministry said the returning Russian service members were undergoing medical checks in Belarus. A Russian military video also showed smiling soldiers boarding buses. A video showed some men wrapped in the blue and yellow Ukrainian flag getting off a bus well after dark and being embraced by loved ones. Ukrainian Parliament's Commissioner for Human Rights, Dmytro Lubinets, said a total of 3,767 prisoners had returned home till now. The last known prisoner swap involving 103 prisoners from each of the sides took place in the month of September. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he had asked the Defense Ministry to work on proposals for possible weapon exports on Friday. He added that he expected a White House team to visit Ukraine soon with feedback on the victory plan presented to the Western leaders earlier.
Щодо фідбеку, я чекаю.
As for the feedback, I am waiting for the White House team in Ukraine.
We are waiting, and they will be here in the nearest future, and they will bring some answers. 2 days ago, I had a conversation with the President of the United States of America. We received a package of $500 million. We also agreed that we will regularly receive packages once every 2-3 weeks, and it will strengthen our army.
Israel continued its military operation in Lebanon against the Hezbollah, while rockets were fired towards Israel from Lebanon's small town. Earlier on Friday, Hezbollah announced that it was moving to a new and escalating phase in its conflict with Israel after the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Meanwhile, Israel intensified its operation in North Gaza's Jabalia camp, targeting the Hamas. The military has carried out extensive military operations in Jabalia for about 2 weeks, with it claiming to be dismantling Hamas infrastructure in the area to stop the Hamas group from regrouping. On the other hand, Hamas vowed on Friday that it would not release the hostages seized during its 7th of October attack on Israel until the Gaza conflict ends, as it mourned the death of its leader Yahya Sinwar. The killing of Sinwar, the mastermind of the deadliest attack in Israel's history, had raised hopes of a turning point in the conflict, including for families of the Israeli hostages and Gazans enduring a dire humanitarian crisis. However, as Qatar-based Hamas official Khalil al-Hayya mourned Sinwar in a video statement on Friday, he reiterated the group's position that no hostages would be released. During a visit to Beirut, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni met with Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri on Friday. During a joint news conference with Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati, Meloni has called for strengthening of the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Lebanon, known as the UNIFIL. Meloni said that she planned to hold talks with Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu after her current visit to Lebanon and Jordan. US President Joe Biden said on Friday there is a possibility of working towards a ceasefire in Lebanon, but it will be a harder one in Gaza. Speaking to the reporters in Berlin, where he met the leaders of Germany, France and the United Kingdom, Biden assessed the efforts to end the multi-arena conflict in the West Asia. Biden also told reporters that he has an understanding of how and when Israel will respond to the missile attacks by Iran. However, he declined to elaborate.
An opportunity, in my view, and my colleagues agree, that we can probably deal with Israel and Iran in a way that ends the conflict for a while. It ends the conflict. In other words, it stops the back and forth. We think that there's a possibility of working for a ceasefire in Lebanon, and it's going to be harder in Gaza, but we agree that there has to be an outcome. What happens the day after?
In an unexpected turn of events on the campaign trail, former US President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are clashing, this time not over policies, but over each other's health. The two political figures have taken jabs at one another's well-being, raising questions about their fitness for office in 2024 election. What started as a typical exchange of policy disagreements has now taken a personal turn between Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump as they battled through the battleground state of Michigan on Friday. Presidential candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris exchanged sharp criticisms over each other's ability to lead the country during visits to Michigan. While Trump was in Detroit, Michigan's largest city, U.S. former president called Vice President Kamala Harris not a smart person and insisted that she is unfit to represent the nation.
Tell me when you've seen me take even a little bit of a risk. Not only am I'm not even tired. I'm really exhilarated. You know why? We're killing her in the polls because the American people don't want her. She didn't pass her bar exam. She's not a smart person. She's not a person that should represent our country. So I just want to let you know that very clearly. Go ahead.
Vice President Kamala Harris swiftly responded, turning the tables on Donald Trump. During an event in Grand Rapids, the heart of more conservative Western Michigan, she mocked Donald Trump for avoiding debates and cancelling interviews, citing his campaign's claim that he's exhausted.
You know, I've been hearing reports that his team at least is saying he's suffering from exhaustion. And that's apparently the excuse for why he's not doing interviews. And of course, he's not doing the CNN town hall. He refuses to do another debate. And, you know, look, being president of the United States is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world. And so we really do need to ask if he's exhausted being on the campaign trail, is he fit to do the job? And I think that's a question that is an open-ended question that he needs to answer.
Supporting Kamala Harris, former US President Barack Obama also campaigned in Tucson on Friday. Questioning former President Donald Trump's age and fitness as an older loonier, Obama also called Trump's 2.5-hour speeches gibberish.
There is also a question of his competence. Have you seen him lately? I mean, he is out there, he's given 2.5-hour speeches, just word salads. You have no idea what he's talking about. He's talking about Hannibal Lecter. He's talking about this. He's talking about that. He held a town hall meeting where he just, let me explain, because I've done a lot of town hall meetings. The point of a town hall meeting is to take questions. He just decided, you know what, I'm going to stop taking questions.
As Trump and Harris continue to spar over their fitness for office, it is now clear that personal health is an issue in the 2024 race that had started with US President Joe Biden pulling out of the race. Both the sides are likely to use this as a weapon in their broader political campaigns ahead of the US elections. Bureau Report, DD India. And now let's take a listen to this report by DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh, where he analyzes reports in top newspapers across the United States as to how these are covering various aspects of the upcoming presidential elections.
DD India is on the election trail in the United States. We decided to take a break from work and come to this lovely Central Park, which is at the heart of New York. I'm also carrying these leading newspapers published in New York to understand the manner in which the local media is carrying stories about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Let's begin with the Wall Street Journal. Article analyzes that if Trump were to come back, we'll see a new version in which tariffs are going to be used in a strong manner as a tool for American economy to go forward, also particularly against its competitors. Moving forward, we also take a look at the manner in which Democrats are looking at the swing states. Democrats see Wisconsin as key to strategy. Wall Street Journal says the vice president was leading Wisconsin by just 1 percentage point. So hugely important for them to be working hard, and therefore Kamala Harris decided to be in Wisconsin instead of attending that very high-profile dinner. Let's turn to the next paper. I have with me the New York Post. Now, it is the very important Catholic charity dinner, Al Smith dinner that Donald Trump attended, and Vice President Kamala Harris decided to skip while she was campaigning in Wisconsin. It says that it turned out to be sort of a triumph for Donald Trump. Trump 78 blasted Harris for being the first presidential candidate to decline the invitation to the event. Mind you, in about 40 years, it has never happened that one of the candidates was absent. The first time Kamala Harris decided that she is not going to be present. She did appear in the form of a recorded message, but that sort of invited more criticism for now than appreciation. So Donald Trump did, it appears, get an edge as far as that very special dinner was concerned. I'm turning to the third newspaper. It's the New York Times. It is talking about how door knocking for Kamala Harris gets high-tech help. Interesting article. Now, instead of candidates and volunteers going on door-to-door knocking and seeking support for Kamala Harris, they're using interesting apps. One such app is the Reach app. If a particular person installs the Reach app, it also then helps the political parties to connect with the contacts of the person. So instead of knocking at every door, you use technology. This one says Donald Trump family relative woo the Arab Americans, talking particularly in the context of the state of Michigan. A significant Arab population, it says. Masad Bilos, Tiffany Trump, who's Donald Trump's daughter, Lebanese American father-in-law, has been trying to sway Arab Americans to Donald J. Trump. Those were some of the highlights of the major newspapers published in New York. We see it's the last few days, the context is getting more and more sharp. The attacks are getting sharper. with all the updates. We'll stay on the track to cover the US elections. For now, send it back to the studio. This is Shubhendu Ghosh with camera person S.J. Shankar in New York for DD India.
Now it's time to take a quick and short break. We'll be right back, but still to come on the other side. North Korea said it had discovered the remains of a crashed South Korean military drone. Man arrested in Tokyo after throwing several suspected petrol pumps at the ruling party headquarters. And 25th anniversary of hit musical The Lion King.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. You just saw the newspaper review from New York, and now it's time to go across to the USA, where DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh is there to bring us the latest. Good evening, Amrit. Rather, a very good morning from India. Now, if you talk about the presidential election there in the USA, the campaign has now taken a shape where both of the candidates are talking about each other's fitness. How are the stakeholders responding to it?
Oh, it is the most polarized election in the history of the United States. It's never been this close, and that's why it makes the election so interesting. And that's why you see the kind of rhetoric coming out. Of course, Donald Trump, the man that he is a very polarizing figure. The kind of language that he uses, but that has forced the Democrats to hit back. Kamala wasn't, I have covered elections before in the United States. This kind of a personal attacks being made weren't seen. You saw him attack Joe Biden, use words like Joe Biden became a retard, Kamala was born that way. After Joe Biden pulled out of the race and Kamala came in, Kamala started doing the same to him, asking questions, raising questions about his mental fitness, his age, because she's younger. So the kind of rhetorics, the barbs that are being traded, the personal attacks that are being made by both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is, when I speak to analysts here, university professors, political watchers, they say it has the election rhetoric has never been so below the belt ever in the history of the United States election. So that only speaks that how polarized the society has become, and how the debate has been polarized by the current candidates. Deepika.
All right, thank you so much, Amrit, for joining us and bringing us the latest from the USA. Now, moving on, let's talk about what's happening in North Korea and South Korea. So we'll talk about to the rising tensions in the Korean peninsula, as North Korea has said that it has discovered the remains of crashed South Korean military drone on Saturday. So North Korea state media KCNA released several still photographs of the drone and said the drone was found on the 13th of October. It added drone's shape is similar to the one scattering leaflets over Pyongyang, and this was the same model that the South Korean military recently showcased during a recent military drill in Seoul. The South Korean government has refrained from commenting on the North's claim, citing concerns about potential ploys. Now, South Korea's spy agency said that North Korea has dispatched 1,500 special forces troops to Russia for combat training, raising an alarm over their potential deployment in Ukraine. This move follows North Korea's constitutional revisions, branding South Korea as a hostile state. Now, amid escalating hostilities, North Korea has also destroyed inter-Korean transport links, intensifying concerns among residents near the border.
South Korea's spy agency said on Friday that North Korea has shipped 1,500 special forces troops to Russia's Far East for training and acclimatizing at local military bases and will likely be deployed for combat in the war in Ukraine. South Korea's National Intelligence Service also released satellite images to show military facilities in Russia where North Korean personnel were gathered. North Korea's recent constitutional revisions classifying South Korea as a hostile state has heightened tensions in the Korean peninsula. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un urged his military to regard South Korea as an enemy and warned that the North would not hesitate to retaliate if its sovereignty were threatened. Analysts say North's constitutional amendment essentially serves as leader Kim Jong-un's survival strategy.
I believe that North Korea's strategic goal of moving towards two hostile states is essentially Kim Jong-un's survival strategy. In other words, Kim Jong-un is saying, let's build a wall between the two Koreas so we are not conscious of each other and each of us can survive on our own.
Recently, North Korea blew up sanctions of inter-Korean roads and rail lines on its side of the heavily fortified border between the two Koreas. South Koreans living in Paju province, which borders North Korea, raise concerns about Pyongyang blowing up sections of the key inter-Korean roads and railways.
At that time, I thought it was just a show from North Korea. After that, I thought they would be trying to extort money. Then later, after thinking about it more and seeing them blowing road and railroad, I became concerned.
In another development, Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru met with the families of Japanese nationals abducted by North Korea and said he will make all-out efforts to quickly bring them home. It was the first such meeting since Ishiba became Prime Minister, taking place on Thursday at the Prime Minister's office in Tokyo. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
A man was arrested in Tokyo after throwing several suspected petrol bombs at the ruling party headquarters on Saturday morning. The incident occurred just over a week before general election. Japanese public broadcaster NHK said that the 5 or 6 Molotov cocktail-like objects hit a riot police vehicle, but 5 were soon extinguished and no one was injured. The man, believed to be in his 40s, also tried to drive his car into the grounds of the Prime Minister's office but was blocked by a fence. He then reportedly tried to throw what appeared to be a smoke bomb but was stopped by police officers on the scene who detained him. Now, violence and chaos is gripping Pakistan's Punjab province as protests erupted following the alleged assault of a college student. From Lahore to Rawalpindi, students demanded justice, accusing the authorities of a cover-up, while tensions escalated amidst growing political unrest. DD India's Tripti has more.
These streets tell us a story of fear and anger. Chaos erupted in Lahore as news of a brutal rape on a college student sent shockwaves across the city. What started as a gathering at the gates of Punjab College spiraled into a violence. Flames engulfed the parking lot, windows shattered, and protesters armed with iron rods and clubs surged throughout the campus. The director of Punjab Group of Colleges, the institution at the center of these accusations, has outright denied the incident, fueling public outrage.
Even the most parking lots have cameras, yet they didn't. Was a parking lot that poorly equipped? They had cameras and all the evidence, but they are hiding it. They have bribed government and top officials to cover up the truth, just to protect their institution's reputation.
The unrest did not stop in Lahore. It spread like wildfire across Punjab, from major institutions in Lahore to the streets of Rawalpindi. Anger mounted as accusations of a cover-up deepened, pushing students in Rawalpindi on the streets. Over 380 were arrested as police cracked down on demonstrators with tear gas and gunfire.
सोशल मीडिया पे ऐसे ही तो नहीं ना आ रही.
Information isn't going viral on social media without reason. We are holding a peaceful protest, but the police have mistreated us, using tear gas and even opening fire. Why did they do this? We are standing up for rights and seeking justice.
हम justice के लिए निकले हैं.
In response, the authorities ordered the immediate closure of all educational institutions in Punjab, affecting approximately 26 million of students. Public gatherings have been banned across the province, tightening the government's grip on any further unrest. But this is just one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Pakistan's streets are not only echoing cries of social injustice, but also the rumblings of political warfare. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, led by former Prime Minister Imran Khan, is staging nationwide protests against the proposed constitutional changes and his controversial arrest. With demonstrations sweeping the country, the party is sending a clear message: the constitution will not be altered. Tripti Tripathi for DD India.
Now, Cubans lit fires and burnt candles on Friday as it works to restore power following an island-wide blackout. The officials said that Cuba had restored a trickle of power to its grid by mid-evening on Friday, hours after the island had plunged into a countrywide blackout following the collapse of one of its major power plants. The vast majority of the country was in the dark, but scattered pockets of the capital Havana, including some of the city's major hospitals, saw lights flicker back on shortly after dark. The government earlier on Friday was forced to close schools and non-essential industry and sent more state workers home. Recreational and cultural activities were also ordered closed. A fire burning in Oakland, California, damaged homes on Friday, prompting the evacuation of hundreds of residents. The Oakland Fire Department reported 13 to 15 acres have been burned and 10 structures damaged by the killer fire that authorities believe to be largely under control now. According to reports, the fire started in the back of one of the homes and spread quickly. Crews, both on land and air, joined efforts to contain the fire. Now, several parts of central and southern France were still underwater after intense rainfall flooded towns and motorways. The floods were described as the worst ever seen in certain parts of the country. In many areas, the authorities are working to pump away flood water while schools remain closed. The alert was downgraded to orange on Friday, indicating that water levels would come down once again. Time to take a short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian President Draupadi Murmu scheduled to visit Sri Radhakrishna Temple and the Malawi Lake in Malawi. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says cooperation between India and Mexico can be potentially broad-based and multi-sectoral.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. Let's quickly recap the top headlines. Putin says Russia wants lasting peace in Ukraine, appreciates Prime Minister Modi's concern over Ukraine crisis. US President Joe Biden wraps up Germany visit, says a ceasefire in Lebanon possible, ending Gaza conflict is difficult. In sports, India stages strong comeback against New Zealand in Bengaluru Test. In hockey, India to take on Japan in Sultan of Johor Cup in Malaysia. India's President Draupadi Murmu is in Malawi on the last day of a 3-day stay in the African nation. She will visit places of cultural significance in Malawi today. President Draupadi Murmu is scheduled to visit the Sri Radha Krishna Temple and the Malawi Lake. Earlier on Friday, the President held a bilateral meeting with her counterpart Lazarus Chakwera. India and Malawi signed 4 MOUs of cooperation in various sectors following delegation-level talks. MOUs signed in art and culture, sports, youth matters and pharmaceutical cooperation. In celebration of 60 years of diplomatic relations between India and Malawi, Malawi President Chakwera also hosted a dinner on Friday evening for President Draupadi Murmu at the Kamuzu Palace in Lilongwe. Now, India's Ministry of External Affairs on Friday held a media briefing on the significance of President Draupadi Murmu's visit to Malawi and what transpired during the high-level exchanges that took place during the visit. The Ministry of External Affairs dubbed the Indian President's Malawi visit as historic, as it is the first ever visit by an Indian head of state to the African nation in 60 years. The briefing outlined the significance of India-Malawi relations as well.
This is a historic visit, as it is the first ever visit by the President of India to Malawi in the last 60 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. India was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic relations with Malawi soon after the country's independence in 1964. India and Malawi share a cordial and friendly relationship reinforced by strong people-to-people ties which span over 140 years. Malawi remains one of our special partners in Africa, and India has strong development partnership with Malawi. It is in this context that the visit of the Honorable President assumes great significance. Coincidentally, this year also marks the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between our two countries. I must add here that our people-to-people ties predate our official relations and go back over a century.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate National Learning Week, which is the Karma Yogi Saptah, today. The initiative aims at enhancing the skills of civil servants nationwide. The National Learning Week focuses on fostering individual and organizational development within the civil service and promoting lifelong learning. Civil servants will dedicate at least 4 hours to competency-linked learning through online modules, webinars and public lectures. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman participated in the India-Mexico Trade and Investment Summit on enhancing trade and investment collaboration in the Mexico City. Addressing the summit, the minister said that cooperation between India and Mexico can be potentially broad-based and multi-sectoral, highlighting that India offers tremendous opportunities for growth and investment, especially in the pharmaceutical, manufacturing and automotive sectors. Finance Minister Sitharaman also underlined India's emergence as a global leader in digital economy with adoption rate of 87% in the fintech sector. She noted that initiatives like UPI with Mexico's growing digital ecosystem can provide a fertile ground for cross-border collaborations and innovation in fintech and digital payments. After attending the India-Mexico Trade and Investment Summit, the director of Wayne, a business group, Carla Loyo, said the strengthening of India-Mexico has great potential for many projects.
Y pues estoy muy contenta de estar en esta conferencia en donde escuchamos palabras de la ministra de Finanzas de India. Es un honor para todos nosotros saber que nuestro país está estrechando lazos con India. Creemos que hay un gran potencial por explotar. Y pues este es el inicio de muchos proyectos más que podemos hacer, podemos generar en conjunto en términos de comercio y de inversión entre ambos países. Muchas gracias por la invitación.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also held bilateral meeting with her counterpart Rogelio Ramirez, who is the Minister of Finance and Public Credit of Mexico. She congratulated the minister for being appointed as Secretary of Finance and Public Credit for a second consecutive term. The Finance Minister expressed India's willingness to share its experiences with the government of Mexico and also to explore collaboration based on India's digital transformation. The finance minister also proposed a mutually beneficial partnership between India and Mexico through the Indian startup ecosystem and emphasized that the youth is capable of coming up with innovative and effective solutions, and such exchange of ideas can help both the countries. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Friday awarded the startups and MSME innovators of India who had developed cutting-edge disruptive technologies. The Dare to Dream 5 challenge was also thrown open for individual and industry innovators. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh urged India's private sector to take the lead in defence manufacture and innovation.
में प्राइवेट सेक्टर की भागीदारी को अब लीड लेना चाहिए। पार्टिसिपेशन की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, बल्कि प्राइवेट सेक्टर को अब लीड लेना चाहिए। ऐसा मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं क्योंकि प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री के अंदर तेजी से हो रहे परिवर्तनों को न सिर्फ एब्जॉर्ब करने की क्षमता है, बल्कि नई चीजें क्रिएट करने की भी उनके अंदर क्षमता है।
Secretary of Department of Defence Research and Development and DRDO Chairman Dr. Sameer Kamath said that the Technology Development Fund of DRDO provides funding of up to 10 crore rupees for innovative deep technology.
Of subsystems and technologies which were present in the equipment of our services. However, it has now evolved where we are looking at the same scheme to develop cutting-edge technologies in all the emerging and disruptive new technologies that have emerged in recent times, or as they are called, deep tech areas.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has said that inclusiveness is going to define the success story of India. Addressing the annual plenary session of the Indian Chambers of Commerce in New Delhi, he praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his very determined and honest effort in the last 10 years to ensure that every child born in this country is assured of the basic needs like water, electricity, food, health, education and digital connectivity.
We all recognize that inclusiveness is also going to define the success story of India. How inclusive we are in our various initiatives to involve 140 crore Indians. Prime Minister Modi in the last 10 years has made a very honest and determined effort, a very sincere effort to ensure that every child born in India are assured of the basic needs that each one of us has: food, clothing, shelter, electricity, all the utilities that one needs, water, electricity, digital connectivity, health, education.
Now, India has surpassed China to become the largest two-wheeler market across the world, driven by rising demands in rural areas, supported by favorable monsoon conditions and government initiatives for rural development. This is according to a research report that was released today. Globally, two-wheeler sales grew by 4% year-on-year in the first half of 2024, according to Counterpoint Research. Although India, Europe, North America, Latin America and the Middle East along with Africa saw growth, China and Southeast Asia experienced a decline. India's two-wheeler market saw a remarkable 22% year-on-year growth in the first half of this year. The strong performance allowed India to surpass China and become world's largest two-wheeler market. Two-wheelers saw strong double-digit growth in the second quarter of this fiscal year across the country. Now let's get your weather update. A thin layer of smog engulfed New Delhi on Saturday with air quality index falling to 226, labelled as poor as per the Central Pollution Control Board. The residents complained of throat and breathing issues. The highest AQI was at the Akshardham and Anand Vihar area at 334, categorized as very poor, followed by AQI of 253 at Ames and surrounding areas. The Yamuna River in Delhi was seen covered with a thick layer of white froth. Experts say the froth poses health hazards for people, especially as the festive season approaches. Officials have already begun sprinkling defoamers to tackle the issue. And now let's quickly take a look at other stories making news around the world. Kenyan activists criticized Kithure Kindiki's deputy president appointment on Friday. Human rights activists expressed dismay over Kindiki's nomination, linking him to the death of over 60 people during demonstrations against tax hikes and the cost of living earlier this year. They planted trees to honor those killed and called for accountability. Mexico's Navy had seized some 8.4 metric tons of illicit cargo and arrested 23 people in its largest ever drugs bust on Friday. The Navy also seized 8,700 litres of fuel and 6 ports of the coast near Lázaro Cárdenas in the state and further south of the coast of Guerrero state. The seized assets are worth at least 2 billion pesos. Peruvian devotees paid homage to the Lord of Miracles during a procession in Lima on Friday. The popular procession is a tradition dating from 1687 when a mural depicting the same image of Jesus escaped unscathed in a powerful earthquake, brought faithful outside Las Nazarinas church to praise the Lord of Miracles and ask him for kindness. Hit musical The Lion King is celebrating its 25th anniversary in London's West End this weekend. The celebration will include a special gala performance on Sunday after first opening its door at the theatre on the 19th of October 1999. Meanwhile, new spin-off film Mustafa, The Lion King is due to be released in December. Time to take a short break, but still to come on News Hour. US budget deficit widens to $1.8 trillion, which is the third highest on record. Latest UN report reveals status of poverty in Bangladesh. And New Zealand all set to face South Africa in Women's T20 Cricket World Cup Super Finale on Sunday.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. Now let's take you to Sri Lanka, where Sri Lanka India Society organized an event to mark the 78th year of India's independence in Colombo. Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka, Vijitha Herath, took part in the event and said the trade dynamics between India and Sri Lanka have immense potential in the future. He also recalled the generous assistance extended by India during the economic crisis. On the occasion, Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, said that the bilateral relations between the two countries have progressed to a point where it is not possible to think of living apart.
We recall the tremendous support extended by India following Sri Lanka's recent economic crisis and the support extended for our debt restructuring arrangement with the IMF. The trade dynamics between India and Sri Lanka have immense potential. India is one of Sri Lanka's largest trading partner, providing essential imports that support various sectors, including agriculture, health, and infrastructure.
In Bangladesh, some 41.7 million people are living under extreme poverty, with 6.5% of the population facing severely dire conditions, according to a latest report by the United Nations. The report, titled Global Multidimensional Poverty Index 2024, Poverty Amid Conflict, was published jointly by the United Nations Development Programme and Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative of the Oxford University on Thursday. This report paints a grim picture of Bangladesh's poverty crisis. The report further identifies poor living standards as the largest contributor to Bangladesh's poverty rate, accounting for 45.1% of the poverty index. Education and health factors also play significant roles, contributing 37.6% and 17.3%. This latest report calls attention to the urgent need for targeted interventions to address the root causes of poverty and improve living conditions for millions in Bangladesh and beyond. The budget deficit in USA has created new political waves ahead of the presidential election, as it has reached the highest after COVID era and third highest in the US's history. The United States on Friday reported a budget deficit of $1.8 trillion for the past year, widening from 2023's level on greater spending, including for interest on the public debt. The Treasury Department also said that the nation's debt remains a key concern for voters ahead of November's presidential election. The rise in receipts for the latest fiscal year was mainly due to increases in the amount of individual and corporate income tax collected, among other areas. However, announcing the latest budget results, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen stressed that the U.S. economy remained resilient in 2024. Experts are expecting the poll promises by both the Republican and Democratic rivals may further increase the budget losses. A U.S. judge on Friday granted tech giant Google permission to postpone allowing competing app stores to sell Android-powered handsets, while the tech giant files an appeal against the ruling that would have done precisely that. Federal Judge James Donato's decision spares Google from having to comply with an 1st of October deadline to allow competitors' app shops to access its Android mobile operating system. Meanwhile, Google has welcomed Donato's decision to temporarily pause the implementation of dangerous remedies demanded by Epic, while an appeal court considers a permanent block. The order issued earlier this month is a result of Google's defeat in an antitrust case brought by Fortnite maker Epic Games, where a California jury decided that Google wields illegal monopoly power through its Android Play Store. You're watching the India News Hour. Time now to get you the latest from the world of sports. Now talking about the test which is going on between India and New Zealand. Sarfaraz Khan scored his first international 100 during the opening test between India and New Zealand in Bengaluru on day 4. Sarfaraz brought it up in 110 balls, smashing 13 fours and 3 sixes. The 26-year-old made his test debut against England in Rajkot earlier this year. On day 3, Virat Kohli was dismissed on the final ball of play by Glenn Phillips. Kohli smashed his 31st test century before completing 9,000 test runs. Currently, with Rishabh Pant and Sarfaraz duo on the crease, India is trailing New Zealand by 38 runs after 66 overs. Earlier, Rajendra Ravindra's powerful knock propelled New Zealand to 402 on day 3. Tim Southee also added a quick 65 runs to add salt to the wounds and help New Zealand extend their lead to 356 runs. New Zealand defeated West Indies by 8 runs in their Women's T20 World Cup semi-final fixture in Sharjah on Friday evening. The White Ferns will play the final on Sunday against South Africa, who had earlier defeated Australia in the first semi-final. Chasing 129, West Indies were restricted to 120 for a loss of 8 wickets by New Zealand in Sharjah. Earlier, Doughton took 4 for 22 as the West Indies kept New Zealand to 128 for a loss of 9 wickets in their 20 overs. After winning the toss and batting, openers Susie Bates and Georgia Pilmer top scored for New Zealand, who struggled against some tight bowling. In hockey, India's junior men's hockey team is all set to begin their 12th Sultan of Johor Cup campaign in Malaysia starting from Saturday. The hockey tournament will be held from the 19th till the 26th of October. This marks the beginning of the Sultan of Johor Cup, where India will face off against Japan in their opening match on Saturday. Later on, India will take on host Malaysia, Great Britain, Australia and New Zealand and hope to make it to the finals, which are scheduled to be played on the 26th of October. In Malaysia, the team is competing under the leadership of new head coach PR Srichesh, who is assigned Amir Ali as the captain and Rohit as the vice captain. Tennis legend Rafael Nadal, who announced his retirement a week ago, is playing his last exhibition tournament at Riyadh and is all set to face the next opponent. Speaking on his participation and possibilities of representing his side at the Davis Cup, Nadal said he will continue to support his team. Here's more.
With an illustrious career coming to an end, Rafael Nadal on Thursday said he feels he made the right decision on his retirement as he looks forward to one final hurrah at next month's Davis Cup finals in Malaga. After losing to Spanish compatriot Carlos Alcaraz by 6-3, 6-3 at the Six Kings Slam exhibition in Riyadh on Thursday, the former world number 1 appeared to leave some doubt as to if he will be fit for the Davis Cup, saying he would play if he could help his team.
I made the decision a few time ago. Take some time, but after Olympics, I give myself a few weeks to think, and I realized that I answered the questions that I needed to answer to myself to make the decision that I feel is the right decision for me today. And if I'm going to be ready for the Davis Cup or not, emotionally, I'm sure I will be ready.
The Davis Cup is down to the final 8 and Spain will face the Netherlands on the 19th of November. The final will be played on the 24th of November. But before the Davis Cup, Nadal has what will most likely be his last ever professional matchup against longtime rival Novak Djokovic.
As I said before, I have not much pressure here. I just trying to have fun, to enjoy every moment on court. I know I'm going to play against players that they are in much better shape than me because they are on the professional tour and winning tournaments.
With 22 Grand Slam titles in the bag, including a record 14 French Open titles, Nadal announced last week that he would hang up his racket after the international team event. Sports Desk, DD India.
The 5th edition of Riyadh season is underway in the Saudi Arabian capital since the 12th of October. Events under it are being organized all across Riyadh. Suwaidi Park in Riyadh is one such venue that takes you on a journey around the world through their cultures, music, dances, traditional foods and other attractions. DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya reports from Riyadh.
A riveting performance by an Indian dance troupe enthralling visitors at Suwaidi Park in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. Visitors can be seen enjoying Bollywood numbers and Indian folk dances and watching Indian singing and dancing talent perform. Indian cuisine and culinary delights such as this stall of Indian Hyderabadi cuisine are drawing in visitors too. Under Riyadh season 2024, the spotlight is on India at the Suwaidi Park for a little over a week this October. Riyadh season was introduced in 2019 by Saudi authorities in support of Saudi Vision 2030. Since then, under its umbrella, a series of entertainment, cultural and sporting events are held in Riyadh for 5 months, from October to March every year. Indian ambassador to Riyadh, Dr. Suhail Khan, took a tour of the park and witnessed the events firsthand.
This is a very important initiative which strengthens the bonds between the Indian communities, the other expatriate communities in the kingdom, and the Saudi society. We welcome this initiative. We are very excited to see a huge crowd of our Indian community and the Saudi friends come here and enjoy the Indian culture.
Members of the Indian diaspora in Saudi Arabia were among the visitors at the park.
We have a lot of population of Indians here, and it's really encouraging that they are also recognizing our culture and trying to spread it to the Saudi people as well.
Very happy in this society. I feel very secure, and our cultural also they are giving so much recognition to our cultural activities.
Other than India, Suwaidi Park has a sprinkling of cuisines, cultures, concerts and entertainment events from other countries too, such as the Philippines, Indonesia, Pakistan, Yemen, Sudan, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Bangladesh and Egypt. All in all, Suwaidi Park has become a hub of global entertainment and cross-cultural connect between Saudi nationals and expatriate communities.
For 9 days in October this year, the flavor of Riyadh season at Suwaidi Park in southern Riyadh is India. The idea is to showcase the intermingling and bonhomie between the Indian and Saudi society and bring the people of both the countries closer. With cameraman Pramod Negi, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Riyadh for DD India.
And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.